What is going on, guys? If you have not been following along, I am taking a 37.5-foot school bus, chopping off the rear half, cutting it all the way down to the floorboards, and parking my Jeep Wrangler up on the back of it. I do a lot of off-roading, four-wheeling, rock crawling, everything with my 2012 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited, and I want to bring some sort of house along with me when I take it to off-road vehicle parks, or if I take my 66 Mustang that I resto modded and take it to some racetracks. What a better way than building this bus and putting these on the back of it. We're going to start off this video with doing a jump back in time to when I first started chopping off the rear wall and bringing it forward. Now the floor in this bus is in very, very good shape. Have some little bit of surface rust here and there, but that is about it. I'm going to take this wire wheel on the angle grinder and I'm just going to go through the entire thing, and I'm going to get as much of the surface rust off as I can before I start giving it a good wipe down. So now it is time to pressure wash this out during the day so then everything dries up, so by tonight I am ready to apply that paint. I did use a leaf blower to kind of blow everything out as best I could last night, but it's probably not going to be everything, so pressure washer is going to help and get rid of all the final stuff that's on here. With this all pressure washed off now, it should be nice and clean. Now it is time just to let it dry. It is supposed to hit about 85 degrees here in Washington today, so underneath this big old dome here, it should get hot in here. That dried way faster than expected, which is a good thing. So that means I'm going to paint this floor. I'm just going to use some Rust-Oleum Rust Reform and Seal. It is kind of a rubberized sealant, so it should protect it pretty well. I'm going to take this and I'm going to do a very thin layer the whole way down. I don't really need it to be super thick because it's not going to be exposed to any elements. It is literally only to stop any surface rust becoming worse. I got 2 of these. Hopefully that is enough. All right, and there we have it. The entire thing is now painted. I did have to stop about halfway through once I get to the sunlight. The paint was curing almost exactly as I was laying it down, which was not good. I couldn't roll it out. So I took a pause for a few hours, worked up some stuff around the house, and jumped back to it and just finished it up. Now that we are back, it is time to start taking care of the insulation and the subflooring in the bus. Okay, so now that we saw the preparation of the flooring itself, the paint, the sanding, it is time to start working on the actual insulation and the plyboard. First things first with the plyboard, got to measure out the width and the length of the bus, obviously. The 4x8 plywood does not quite fit from side to side. So I do need to chop this down and make it so it can fit inside of here. I am measuring it out in a means to make sure there's about a ½ inch gap between the wall and the plyboard. The reason behind that is so that the plyboard does not touch up against the metal and create a heat transfer or a heat loss that way. So ideally, after everything's all placed and put in, I'll come back and do some spray foam in there just to kind of seal it up a little bit better and block it out from wood to metal transfer of that heat. The insulation doesn't really matter, that can be pressed up against the walls as much as we want. I am staggering the 4-foot sections. There's a crack in the plyboard, there's a crack in the insulation, so that means those two aren't on the same exact crack, so it helps eliminate the uprising from a joint coming those together. It kind of makes sense, right? So I am using some Loctite sealant. Now this is the 3X sealant, and I also got this sealant gun from Ryobi. This is a battery powered one, and it is so much better than squeezing over and over and over and over again. I will make sure and link this in my description below for you guys to see which one I got, and it saves so much time and energy. Putting the sealant down is a lot easier with this, and don't be stingy. I'm just going back and forth as many times as I can. Just something to bear in mind, you're going to be using a lot of this stuff, so get a lot of it. So getting the insulation in is a bit of a struggle because you don't want to drag it underneath all your glue, and that you might need a little bit of help with. I do have my buddy Casey helping me out a little bit, getting it all situated and set down in here. Then the plyboard goes on top, obviously, the 2-foot and then the 4-foot. So you're going to have a little extra left over of the insulation. And then after everything, we're going to be taking all this weight and putting it on top of the plyboard and the insulation. That way it squeezes down and starts to squish out the glue, and it makes it so it's very, very, very secure. Then this stuff does take 24 hours to cure, so I am going to leave it overnight, come back again tomorrow night, and do it all over again.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Okie dokie, so tomorrow's now upon us, and this part's gonna be a little bit trickier. Most of the buses do have access to get into your diesel tank and change out the sender. My bus is kind of weird where the whole access from factory, I just want to say they put it in the wrong spot. It wasn't even close. The reason behind this is to gain access if you had to fix it, replace it, things like that, but also to plumb in a diesel heater right there into the fuel tank. We're gonna leave a hole in the insulation and the plyboard for that. So the first thing I gotta do is I gotta measure out from side to side and front to back. And then I'm gonna have to cut in insulation into that section. Now with this section cut out, I am gonna save this piece, use the plyboard that is pretty much the same shape, glue this to it down on the floor. So later on, when I have to have access, I'll put a little latch on there and be able to pull the plyboard up with this still attached. And now comes the fun part. This section has to be cut out. I did add in this Mitsubishi Delica seat. As you can see here, we have to worry about the wheel wells, the front of this wheel well, and then around the brackets for the seat, and then also the front step. So all these need to be taken into account when measuring, figuring out, and setting this all up. One thing I do need to bear in mind that doing this, I'm not measuring to the edge of the foam, creating a gap going down. I'm actually measuring to the edge of the wheel well. So as it curves up and it's 2 inches higher, it's actually sticking out an extra almost 2.5 inches from where the foam ends. All right, we're gonna be talking about insulating the bus. I've already insulated the floorboards with 2-inch pink foam board. I don't know about you guys, but the worst thing is waking up and putting your feet on a cold floor. I'm gonna start doing this foam board insulation, meaning I need to start cutting some pieces out. So we're looking at side to side here, 25 3/4 of an inch by 30 3/4 of an inch. So for the walls of this bus, specifically in between the outside and the inside of these two frame areas, is 1.5 inches. I think I have an idea to get it in so it stays in. Let's try that first before I cut them all out to proper size, make sure I can make that work. So I did go for this foam board. It's a little bit different than the one I used down there. This has the little balls that come off, but it's also a little more flexible. So I think if I can get it just right, I should be able to just tap this on down. And as I tap it down, it's gonna like kind of fill in all the gaps, in theory here. Man, talk about a tight fit. So that is pretty good. So it is making an absolute mess. I'm gonna come through and I'm gonna just start putting all the rest of them in here real quick. There we go. Got all the insulation into the walls, excluding these front 2 sections, which I'm not sure what I'm going to do exactly yet. Maybe spray foam to fill them in. It is looking a lot better. So now you're going to find out these spaces down the center. I'm going to put the insulation in those first. So with it cut, just doing a quick double check, make sure it fits here. Definitely have that 1-inch gap right here, which is unfortunate, but be able to fix that later. This fits perfect.
Time to test if my theory is correct. Will this flex enough to sit in the channel? Oh, oh, that is perfect. All right, so these are sitting up here pretty nicely. They didn't take much effort at all. I'm going to try and start working on the ceiling pieces here. Now, earlier I did cut through a lot of these. What I'm going to do is take all the strips and screw them into the ceiling. Not right there, but just like that. So the insulation is actually going to be held up and along the curve of the bus. As you guys know, the top of a bus is not straight, so the entire thing is curved from side to side. So it's going to need some help keeping this insulation curving with it.
All right, guys, and that is going to be it for the video. Please hit that subscribe button for me at the bottom. Hit that like button for me, and share this video to other people who like to build skoolies, go off-roading, or just love to see adventures. Other than that, I'll see you guys all next time.